Friends, myself Chetan Sonar, and today we are going to see what are controlled and uncontrolled components, what is the difference between them, which one to choose, in which conditions, and all these things. So without wasting the time, let's get started. Before we just move on, let's understand what are control components. So control components are basically the components in which you handle your form data using the state object. If you are using the class-based component, you use the state and state object, and if you are using the functional component, then you use the state-related hooks like use state. Using that, you handle or store all the form data in a state. And then if you want to perform any validations, that also you do through the states. Let's look at an example of the control components. Here, what we are doing, we are just showing a form. In that, we have one input text where we are just taking the user's name, and that on the submit button, we are going to show that. So how we are doing over here? What we have done here, we have taken first the use state hook, and we have taken the name and set name functions. Okay, name is a variable and set name is a function which will modify our state object. Now, then the second thing which we have done, we have written the on change handler on the change of the input text field. So whatever the value is present in the text box that we are storing into the state. And then when we click on the submit button, we are showing the alert box with the state. And this value we are fetching from the state object. What are uncontrolled components? So the uncontrolled components are the components in which you don't store the form data or input elements values into the state object. You just directly access the elements through the DOM APIs. Like in the functional component, you use ref. Using that, you whenever you need to access the value of the input element, you just directly access the element and get the value from it. If you want to modify or change the value, or if you want to make any focus or any perform any validation kind of things onto the input elements, then what you do, you just use the user hook and you directly access the element and modify it. So that are called the uncontrolled components. Let's look at an example of uncontrolled components. The example which we have seen previously for the control components, this is the same example. Here, just what we are doing, instead of using the use state hook, we are using over here the use ref hook. And using that hook, we are actually setting the element. So here for the input element, we have said ref is equals to input ref. So that our input element objects is stored into the input ref in name text box where we are fetching the value or entering the value of the name. That object we are storing into the input ref. Now, when we click on the submit button, we are just calling the alert box with the input ref dot current dot value. Here we are not storing the name or the text box value anywhere in our application. We are just directly accessing the element at the runtime and we are fetching the value. Now let's understand what are the advantages of control components over uncontrolled components. The first advantage is consistent UI. As we are using the state object into the control components, we can manage, we can use the data anywhere in our application. Let's say if you want to change some other element, you want to change some other input element using the state, or if you want to perform the validation, so that we can do using the that we can easily do into the control components. Hence, our UI becomes very consistent. There are no lags or there is no disturbance into that as we are using the state object. So the second benefit of control components or uncontrolled component is managed state. As we are using the state related hooks or objects into our application, all our form data or application data is stored into the state object so that we can access that data from any point in our application from any component and you do any kind of validation based on that data. Hence, this is called a managed state. Third benefit which we can see from our control components or uncontrolled components is the data busing between. So as we are using the state object, we can pass the data from parent component to the child component, even from the child component to the parent component very easily. We can use different APIs, use context or Redux also. Using that, we can pass the data from one component to any other component very easily in the control components. Fourth benefit which we can see control components is that we can easily set initial values of the form, or if you want to reset the form, that also we can do very easily into the control components. If you want to do the same thing into the uncontrolled components, then that becomes very lengthy code, and all this kind of things becomes very difficult to do. If you like this video, please hit the like button, share this video with others, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.